It's great to have you with us, Senator Koran, and I'll turn it over to you for your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, thank you for the work that you're doing to investigate and stop the large-scale systemic fraud that Minnesota is experiencing under Democrat Governor Tim Walz. I appreciate the opportunity to share my insight on the fraud as I've seen it in my 9 years as a Minnesota State Senator, as well as being on the Legislative Audit Commission. The Legislative Audit Commission is a bipartisan commission. The commission appoints the legislative auditor, a nonpartisan position whose job is to hold state agencies accountable. The auditor reviews programs across state government, flags misuse of taxpayer dollars, and statutory noncompliance and violations. I spent 9 years overseeing that work, and I can tell you plainly that most of these audits are bad. One of the most common failures of state agencies is not verifying the grant recipients did the work that they were paid to do. In January 2026, just recently, the auditor found something that she said she's never seen in her 27-year career. State employees are backdating and fabricating documents after an audit has started, looking to mislead our auditors. Fraud in Minnesota is pervasive and systemic from the executive branch through the state agencies. Even when the legislature puts safeguards in place, they are often ignored, and there are rarely any real consequences. I've seen this up close, which is why, as I look at the broader fraud crisis, I want to start by highlighting 3 things. First, the billions of dollars in fraud in Minnesota is devastating to our social service programs and communities, our children, disabled, elderly Minnesotans, and the legitimate providers who earn their livelihood providing these vital services. Second, the Governor Tim Walz and his administration, including Attorney General Keith Ellison, have overseen the largest expansion and fastest acceleration of fraud this country has ever seen. They have repeatedly ignored data and warnings from legislators, nonpartisan audits. They've retaliated against whistleblowers exposing fraud, and they've actively attempted to block and disrupt anti-fraud efforts. And third, because of the failure of Governor Walz and the Minnesota Democrats to address fraud, we welcome the federal government to step up and uncover the audit and stop the fraud in Minnesota to protect state and federal tax dollars. Governor Walz and Minnesota Democrats' fraud crisis is either a result of gross incompetence or willful complicity, and I think it's both. The devastation of this incompetence and complicity totals far more in dollars than the media, Governor Walz, or the Democrats admit in public. It's not millions, it's not hundreds of millions, it's billions of dollars stolen. As for the perpetrators stealing the money from children, the elderly, and the people who rely on social services to live a normal life, their actions are un-American. While justice should not discriminate against any specific community, whether the criminal is from Minnesota, Philadelphia, or Somalia, make no mistake that fraudsters discriminate against just one community, Americans. This targeted discrimination to swindle funds from our social programs from the United States has to be stopped. But it's critical that the fraud is investigated and prosecuted. Legitimate businesses and providers are not also punished for the illegal actions of some. So as we direct our hindsight towards addressing the crisis, we also have to take measures to stop the fraud before it starts. Minnesota Republicans have been exposing this rampant fraud in state programs for many years now, talking with whistleblowers and proposing new safeguards to stop fraud. Increased eligibility checks and incentives from the federal government to reduce error rates will help ensure programs are there for those who need them most. What's clear is that our state agencies need stricter oversight. Last year in the Senate, we passed bipartisan legislation to create an anti-fraud office, the Office of the Inspector General, an independent, nonpartisan office designated to identify, investigate, and prosecute fraud. This effort was blocked by the Democrats in the House, but it remains our top priority as we go into this next session. Hindsight measures like the OIG and federal oversight, combined with foresight measures to drastically improve eligibility determination, will help protect taxpayer dollars and get it to the programs that need it the most, not in the hands of the criminals who betray our goodwill and take advantage of our generosity. I appreciate the time and your careful attention to the fraud crisis in Minnesota. It has only been because of the national spotlight that our leaders have begun to admit the fraud problem is as dire as it is. Minnesota is ground zero for the fraud epidemic, but we can become the blueprint for how to prevent fraud if the right actions are taken. I hope that our leaders will work with the federal government to be able to move forward from this dark stain on our state's history. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.